Someone is over. I don't know where they are. You people are on the road as you attending to class or. So in a nutshell, all I'm trying to talk about is the fact that cash received earlier or cash flows that are earlier than later, cash flows that are sooner than later will always be valued, will always be preferred by a firm, by an enterprise, by an individual, okay? Because one, cash flows earlier kind of reduce the risk of loss. Cash flows earlier kind of facilitate and guide financing. Cash flows that flow in earlier can be put to other uses. Okay, so whatever we are discussing here is under that premise. So value for money is simply looking, in simple terms, it is all about, can I get money today than tomorrow? Please, people mute. Philip, you have been so much of a disorganizer in today's class. You have always been on the mic when you are not saying anything. I believe the class is not happy with you, and they will revenge at the right time. Okay? They will revenge at the right time. Okay. Okay. So that is the concept. That is the concept, time value for money. And if that is the case, here are some of the reasons for time preference for money. In other words, why do individuals, why do firms, why do businesses want to have their money today than having it tomorrow? Why do you think so? What would entice you? What would motivate you to prefer getting your entitlement today than tomorrow? Can we brainstorm before we even look at what is here? Class. Can we do some brainstorming? Why do you think you would want to have cash today than tomorrow?
Life is very short.
Sorry?
Life is very short, and there is so much unknowns in the future.
That is not finance. Maybe the unknown is, the uncertainty is, yes, that one is okay. But the shortness of life may not be a qualified reason. Yes, uncertainties are along the way, fine. Those ones may prompt you, and I think that is our point one. Generally, the future is associated with lots and lots of risks and uncertainties, which are fueled by continued changes in the business environment. I think that is okay. Yes, so because you really don't know what will happen tomorrow, you don't know the changes that will get through tomorrow. You want you to have your entitlement today than anticipating to get it tomorrow. And so every time your entitlement is extended, every time the dates, the timing of you getting your entitlement are extended to the future, there must be a cost borne by whoever is holding your entitlement. And in that case, to kind of recover or get compensated for the inconveniences of you not having your entitlement today, we attach an interest. We attach an interest. So the concept of charging interest by you guys who lend out money from banks, from microfinance institutions, from everywhere, comes from that perspective. That is the background that ushers in interest as a cost, as a concept in finance, because risks and uncertainties associated with the future are enormous and cannot be predicted. So to have kind of get compensation for such, we charge interest. Okay, we have another point. We are saying, because people we are not participating, I think we can look at what we have here. We can look at rational consumers. Who is a rational consumer if you can still revisit your concepts of economics? Who is a rational consumer? Class.
A rational consumer is one who does not have plans of consuming a commodity or a product, but as and when they come across anything.
Pardon?
I would think that a rational consumer is one who has not planned on consuming a product or a service, but when they come across it, they are ready to consume it there and then, not in the future.
Was a different version. Who is a rational consumer? From what you know? I don't want to believe that that is a rational consumer. Much as we say that in this class, every answer is right, but they also base the answers. Not so?
I think is the one who normally weighs the cost and benefits in a given decision. Would
Sorry?
be a rational consumer.
Is that's what?
He weighs the cost and benefits
Weighs the costs and benefits
to make a decision, and normally they prefer the present to consume now.
That one is, I think, also generic. This class did economics. You did business economics, right?
That's
Or
right.
I am squeezing you for no reason, but you did business economics. Am I wrong?
You're right.
You did business.
I think a rational consumer is someone who looks at a property to get maximization out of it.
Property for maximization out of it.
Yes, you
That is
try
so far.
To me, a rational consumer is someone who makes his choices after considering all the alternative goods available in the market.
Philip, are you sure?
A rational consumer is someone who looks at maximizing. If there are two choices, looks at choosing what is cheaper.
Not what is cheaper.
No, I think the option that gives him the most satisfaction is what would be his
I think
option.
same position is shared by John in the chat. A rational consumer should be that consumer that aims at maximizing satiety. The focus is on maximum satisfaction given his incomes, given their incomes. The focus is there. Okay? So, from that premise, preference for money, preference for time preference for money comes in to address the needs of a rational consumer, because this person aims at maximizing satisfaction given the income position. Then they better have their cash today, they better have their money today, and it's having it tomorrow. Why? Because today, given my income position, probably a basket of goods is available to me, and if I have my income with me, I can maximize than waiting for tomorrow. Why? Because of risks and uncertainties, prices are subject to changes. And you realize that inflation, for example, affects the value of income, or it affects the value of money. If you remember, value of money in economics relates to, who still remembers? Value for money, or the money value. Have you heard about something to do with the volume of goods or the basket of goods and services a unit of income can command in the market? Have you heard about that? In other words, with very high prices, little can be bought. With relatively lower prices, a lot can be bought. So when we talk about value for money, when we talk about value of income, we are talking about how much a unit of income can buy. And so the higher the prices, the lower, and vice versa. So in terms of a rational consumer preferring current consumption to future consumption, they are like, I better part with what I see now because I don't know what happens tomorrow. So with my money on me, I can maximize my utility because I know the current prices and I don't know prices of tomorrow. Okay, if you go back to economics still, you looked at the reasons that fuel, you looked at reasons that are responsible for, is it the inverse demand curve? The prices continue to go high, but also demand continues to go high. You looked at those reasons? Or you know some, let us not necessarily focus on looking at them. Could you be knowing some of the reasons as to why we have an inverse demand curve? No? Yes. Do you realize that when you expect prices to further increase, you are most likely going to stock or today to take advantage, to cushion yourself of the impending price increases in the near future? So because of future expectations and price increases, demand becomes so high today, irrespective of the level of prices today. Have you heard about that, or have you read it somewhere, read about it somewhere? Have you interacted with it? Are there situations where you've forced yourselves to buy goods even when the prices are high, but because you anticipate them to be higher tomorrow than today, you buy? Just look at when COVID was here and almost every now and then we are threatened into the next lockdown. 21 days as they expire, the rumors that AMZE is going to increase another 20. Have you lived in that situation? I believe the answer is yes, because we are now all COVID children. So
Yes,
you were forced into purchasing decisions even when prices were high, because you kept anticipating that, oh, probably tomorrow they might even be much more higher. Or there have been those products that came during COVID. I think look at, I'll give you the example of Covidex, because you were brainwashed that it really worked on curing the colds and what. You guys bought Covidex at very exorbitant prices, right? Why? Because you anticipated the prices to even further go higher the next day if you didn't stock it today. Now, for a rational consumer, that's where the focus is. I better have my money today and use it to satisfy my needs, my wants, and my interests than getting this money tomorrow because I don't know what the future holds. I hope that is okay. Then, the amount of money received earlier can be invested to earn more return in the future, okay? By waiting for cash later, for later cash flows, the investor forgoes this return. Think about it. If you have cash today, you can make a lot of decisions, including investing this money. And if you start the investment today, you realize that definitely you are projecting into receipts of returns in the future. I think it is last week when we introduced something like this, that the future worth of a current commitment, the future worth is defined by AN. This will be a function of the current commitment A0 into 1 and the compounding rate, or the rate of compounding subject to. And I said that this is not new to us. Are we there? So this is what we are trying to talk
Yes,
about. Sorry?
Yes, we are there.
Yeah, so this is what we are trying to talk about in reason or why cash now than cash tomorrow. You can have today your monies and put them to productive investments today and anticipate a return than waiting to receive your monies in the near future. And I've said the very reason why lenders charge interest is to try to compensate for that. That's why if it is a money lender, if it is a banker, if it is so, they all tag interest to the amount lent out or the amount held by the third parties on behalf of the lenders. The same thing, institutions or businesses that sell on credit and issue invoices, those invoices in most cases attract an interest element for giving you surprise on credit. So if that point is home, I think we can go back and look at the other aspect of why we may prefer cash or monies today. So we have that has point 3. There is also talking about the various uses of money and then taking into account the inflationary tendencies that present within community, within society, within the business environment. So all of those are the reasons why you and me and any other parties would prefer to have their worth today than waiting to have it in the future. So as we go on, I hope there are no questions to that effect. So the concept of time value for money is our key concern today. And we are saying that an important principle in financial management is the value that the value of money depends on when cash flows occur. This is a shilling in hand today is more valuable than unexpected shilling tomorrow. This is the basis of the concept of present value for money. I hope there is nothing I really need to much explain there. It is as I put it. You all prefer to have your worth today than tomorrow, and the reasons have been put forward in the previous engagement. So because of that, the timing of the expected future cash flows is extremely important in the investment of funds, since there is time value associated with the money. It thus means that a shilling received today is far better than whatever we shall receive tomorrow. So in the previous engagement, I think hinted on how interest arose, and it only came in to serve as a compensation for the time money is held outside the hands of the owner. So in that angle, we can now be talking about interest. And by definition, it is simply the second best alternative foregone okay? When money is not in your hands, it is a compensation, is sacrifice for you not having your monies on you. It is the opportunity cost of missing out on the earning potential of a shilling today, okay? It is the opportunity cost of missing out on the earning potential of a shilling today. So if that is the case, then we can say that this opportunity cost is simply a time value for money. So interest can be looked at in terms of simple, in terms of compounding, in terms of basically simple compounding interest. If it is a simple interest, it is simply a fee you pay on a loan or an income that you earn on deposits. Okay, so just think of a situation. Have you had an account, or do you have an account with any of the banks? I may not use Centenary Bank. I may just use any bank. Do you have? I think the answer is yes, you all have bank accounts. But the other question is, do you have the ability to keep there some money, such that we earn some small interest on savings? Because when you look at the accounting opening forms, they always tell you that they are giving you some interest on your savings. I think around 2% or 0.2% per month. But depending on how much is on account and the period for which it has been held on that account. Have you heard about that? So that is interest on deposits. But you can take it to a notch higher by thinking of a fixed deposit into a bank account. Okay, that will be a deposit that can earn you some interest. I don't know the current rates for fixed deposits, but I think we've all heard about such. You fix monies, especially when you don't have best investment ideas and opportunities on you. Instead of simply hitting on whatever opportunity comes your way, best would be fix this money to avoid the risks associated with investing into projects that you have not clearly evaluated. Okay, but you've also had to pay some interest on loans. So that is simple interest that you've seen before. I have the formula here for computing simple interest. I think we all did that lower class of this one was taught around P3 during my time. For your time, I don't know. But we said that.
Senior 3.
Sorry?
Senior 3.
Senior 3, no. Maybe I will graduate of yesterday. So you use it to compute simple interest. If I'm not mistaken, you said it is computed by P, R, T, something like that. Do you remember that time? Where, by the way, when we have this, we can simply summarize and say that simple interest is simply P R T, because the R embeds the percentage, so we can simply leave it at this point. It also makes sense. Okay, so what does it mean? This is the money that earns the broker interests in the period defined than cumulative. There is nothing cumulative here. It is earned in a once-off as interest on the investment committed. So if we can go back here, so that is our formula. The P is the principal being committed, R is the rate at which the principal is committed, and T is the time for which that principal is invested. I want to take you back to those three highlights, A, B, and C, where we are saying that when borrowing money, you must repay the amount you borrowed and make an extra payment for interest, which represents the cost of borrowing. When lending money, you typically set a rate and earn interest income on exchange for making your money available to another user or another person. And when you deposit money, interest-bearing accounts such as savings accounts pay interest income because you are making money available to the bank to lend it to others. I don't know which research areas you want to explore. I'd even asked you to share with me your research topics, but I think I have not seen. And tomorrow you are going to complain that these people have not died on us, but food day because they only dying on themselves. That is what you will say. But I think I'd offered to look at your topics and then see how best we can have supervisors assigned it to you. I think the class coordinator has not come through yet. Why am I bringing that in? Some of you are going to do topics that relate to probably banking, credit, risk. I expect to see a lot of these things, these terminologies coming up from you people. I expect so much to see, but what I'm trying to talk about here, these terminologies will always come in, and there is a theory that can guide us here. Those who can do research in banking, in credit, in basically bank-related activities, among which credit is prime, you can find time or you can interest yourselves and read about financial intermediation theory. I may not have the author straight away, but that theory is there. I think the author is Mize. You can also interest yourselves and look at a theory called credit creation theory. It can also open up your minds to actuate issues of credit management in the banking institutions. You can also look at the modern portfolio theory. And you can also look at the, Bamo-Tobin cash management model, something like that. Others, we shall pass them on as we get along. Yeah, so that is what happens when you borrow, when you lend, or when you commit funds into a bank deposit account. And this is our formula for simple interest. And we have a simple example here that ANV takes a loan of 8 million. He wants to buy a used truck at a rate of 9% simple interest. So how much interest will he pay on that amount? So all we want here is to know how much is paid as interest by the borrower, who is A and B. How much do you think is paid? We simply put that formula to use. PRT is the formula for computing simple interest. But I want to promise you, I will not bring such questions in the exam. I'll just bring questions of application. So we have the principal amount is the rate of interest is, and the time, do we know the time? How much is the time? According to the question, they are saying calculate the annual interest to be paid for the loan. In this case, time is not disclosed, but all we can think of is a year's period, because we're talking about the annual interest. So the time in this case is a year. The question is calculate the annual interest to be paid on this loan. So here time is none other than 1 year. So if that is the case, then the interest amount should be PRT, which is, I think that is 80 million. The rate is 9%, which is 0.09. And the time is, sorry about that. So how much is our interest? How much is the interest?
$720,000.
Should be 700. So that is the amount of interest payable or paid on that facility acquired at 90% in a year. If it were for 2 years, the interest would double. It would have tripled if we went for 3 years, and so on and so forth. I hope we are still together. So we can proceed. Actually, we have our solution here. Our solution is there. We can go on and see where we stand. Yeah. There can be another example. Example 2. You can look at it. When we look at it, nothing changes. The amount of money is the same. Okay, here we are having 10 million. The only difference is that now we are committing it into a savings bank account. It is supposed to earn us 2% as simple interest. So how much interest is earned if this money is kept for 4 years? Same thing, as you can see the solution we have there. Okay, we are looking at the time value for money. So if my money is to be in this bank for 4 years, then it should be in a position to earn me something. And after 4 years, 10 million will have earned me 800,000. Now, here the question to a rational investor will be, what other opportunities are available for me to commit the 10 million vis-a-vis committing it into a savings account held at a bank? The other question will be, what are the risks associated with the prospective investments that can be done at 10 million vis-a-vis keeping the 10 in a bank? So those are the questions that have to be lingering into an investor's mind if this investor is very rational. That is how it's got to be, because it's not that you should always keep or invest into, say, deposits into a bank. No, you can choose to go for border boxer. This money can buy like a 12-3. Now the question will be, what is the risk of losing this money if I invested into Bajaj boxers? What is the rate of being hit by iron bar hitmen? What is the rate of stealing the motorcycles? I mean, where is the risk? What are the risks that can befall this investment if I chose to invest into motorcycles instead of committing the same into a bank? I want to think that you also ask yourselves these questions every time you propose or think of making investments once they are competing alternatives. Or you simply wake up and invest. Any of us here doing business? MBA. MBA is supposed to be an enterprising class. It's not supposed to only be generating knowledge and getting 90s also, no. It needs to be so good at entrepreneurship. Do we do some business, or you fear to disclose your business ventures to your classmates?
Yes, we do.
So how do you make conclusions on which projects you take on? How do you look at aspects of risk, uncertainties, time value for money, and so on and so forth? Okay, I think I should leave that to you. You know better how you juggle your investments and what have you. So these are extended examples. I just put very many such that we can have a better understanding of the concept, okay? I just wanted to us have a better understanding, but now this one is a bit changed. Of course, the meaning is not in any way distorted. Here we have that man called Golola, borrows 3 million from a bank, and the objective was to acquire a car. Interest rate is at 10%. Shilling 9 million is required as interest while clearing the loan. So how much time did Golola have to service the loan? So in this case, you are simply looking at the time taken vis-a-vis the interest paid. If we are in primary school, our thinking would have stopped just at getting the time taken to pay back the loan, or the time the client spent the loan with. But at this level, you must be making decisions on how long you need to hold loan funds on you, because the longer the time, the longer the period you are holding loan funds on you, the more the interest. These bankers here know it, but they never tell you that one of their most selling products is the mortgage. I don't know whether they know, they have told you that. Bankers, do you give property loans here? Any bankers in the house? Any bankers? Alfred, you sound to be a banker because you unmuted the moment I talked about bankers.
Yes, we are there.
We don't have any bankers here?
We have.
Sorry?
We have.
May we know from you bankers your most selling products?
Salary loans.
Salary loans?
Yes.
Okay. How about the mortgages?
And business loans.
Business loans, salary loans. Sorry? Which other loans? I've had salary, I've had business.
And that is very
Asset financing.
Asset financing. Now, do you realize that if it is asset finance, you give it a lot of time? The loan tenure is usually longer than these other loans. Asset financing, I think, can also extend mortgages to that classification. You usually offer customers relatively longer time periods to pay for such loans. But why I'm bringing this is because the longer the time monies are spent with, or you spend the money with, the more the interest you pay. The more the interest you pay. So as a business person here, the objective would be getting a credit that you can offset within a shorter period, so as to run away from the interest costs that are borne by acquiring such facilities, because interest might drain the businesses and may also drain you. So in that case, we are looking for time, and the key takeaway here is if you have credit, best will be paying for it in a shorter time period to help you run away from huge costs associated with servicing loans through repayments of interest. Now we have another interest here, which is our compound interest, and this is what we've been trying to talk about. This is what we've been exactly trying to talk about. So we are saying that we have compound interest, which is the addition of interest to the principal sum of a loan or a deposit. Okay, so it is interest on interest. In other words, unlike a simple interest where every time is looked at as interest is not multiplying, for the compound interest, it is a cumulative interest. It kind of adds on itself at the end of every, say, accounting period. Why? Because the assumption is that whatever was interest during the period, at the end of that period, it is added to the principal, and so billing is done on now a combination of a principal that now has a bearing of interest. So like that, interest grows subject to the existing interest amounts. It is simply on the assumption of reinvesting the interest rather than paying it out. Okay, so that interest in the next period is earned on the principal plus accumulated interest of the previous periods. And that is why it is called compounding interest. It kind of accumulates itself together with a fixed principal, and so interest is charged on whatever is outstanding at a particular period, as which represents now that outstanding forms a component of the P and the I. So I have this formula here. If you go back here, you realize that we can, there is the whiteboard. When does class end on Friday? I usually forget. So I think we had something like this. Now what you see here is the original amount. Okay, sorry, the final amount, which is a function of the original amount or the initial amount, and then fused into at the rate at which interest is computed and the number of years. So what we are interested in here is to make an interest the subject of the formula such that we can always compute. And in simple terms, before we even make a complicated formula, it will mean that if we are looking at compounding interest and you say that the end amount from an investment or a project is determined by using the opening amount into 1 plus R, everything subject to power n, then it will simply mean that interest earned, which is compounding in nature on that investment, is a function of an minus what was invested. Does this make a sense? Are we there? Because if you can do this, then you can always know how much is the interest earned on that investment. But at least we know how to compute A, N. AN is computed using this formula. So meaning you can determine how much is compound interest. Is that okay? Before we can even try to strain ourselves on that formula. Does that make sense to us?
Kindly elaborate more, Mr. Kasenge.
What I've said is that if we take a compound interest to BCI, compound interest is CI, and this should be the final amount earned from an investment minus the initial amount invested. But we also said that the final amount from an investment is a function of the initial amount into 1 plus R, whatever is here raised to power N. Does it make a sense now?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Because if you have these two, then that means definitely you have arrived. You can get your compound interest. I just want to use a simpler formula than complicating it for us. But if you are so critical, you realize that where we have been looking at discounting, it must have come from compounding as a concept. Compounding is futuristic, discounting is supposed to be present, not futuristic. Okay. So class ends at 9, ends at 8:30.
8:30.
8:30.
We're at 80.
8, no, 8 is too early.
Class ends at 8.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah,
So I am here eating your time.
It is okay. We can proceed
But
up to
8:30 is
8:30.
fine. 8:30 is okay, as long as we don't push to 9.
So when are we meeting again?
Next week.
Tomorrow.
Next Friday, the public holiday. You are aware?
So we meet on Saturday next week, because tomorrow is a public
Shall I
holiday.
finish this content? Now we have a lot of breaks.
We
Can
shall.
we meet during the week?
No.
On one of the evenings?
No.
I'm just wondering whether we shall have enough time to finish the module, given
Exactly.
the breaks. Do you think it will necessitate us making some schedules off the routines, or?
Yes, sir.
During the week,
For those
during
who
the
can't.
weekday,
During the weekday, we're suggesting we make off
you
some.
can get like 2 days.
The problem is that
For
the
one day.
module, the class is purely a weekend class.
But you can meet on Friday evening.
We can?
Even if it's a public holiday.
We can
Friday
do what?
evening.
We can meet since it's a public holiday, or we can even
Can
meet.
we do Friday evening?
Sometimes we have to sacrifice, honestly, if we want to cover all.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow you have talked it too late. The date was already booked for other programs.
And we also
But
have an
tomorrow is not
assignment.
possible. We are
Tomorrow is not
going to
possible
meet
because some
those
of us in the
matters.
MBA class even have an assignment to do so.
We can meet on Friday, even if it is a public holiday.
Not so good, but I think okay, I'm going to look at the remaining content because we still have some chapters really to cover. But you realize
Mr.
that
Kasenge, let's meet during the week or on Friday.
during the week, I don't want to inconvenience people who
Mr.
work at
Kaseng on Friday for like 2 hours or 1 hour and a half.
So good. I think what you will do, you have a class coordinator. If you agree, then we shall have to fix it somewhere. If you don't agree, then we shall wait for the routines. This is a pedagogy class. We cannot force anything to eat. Okay? So Benjamin and your team, I think if it is agreeable, you will find time somewhere. If it's not, please let us stick to Friday, Saturday, and see, maybe when we are in for Saturday, we shall have to extend the time. Instead of starting at 9, we may come a bit early. Instead of ending before 5, we may have to stretch to 5.
I think that's better. Extending hours, I think.
Better.
Okay.
Let's agree. Let's agree in the group.
That one I leave to you. You guys can always come up with the best position. Okay. So I think for today, I'm going to organize this content and share it on your Moodle. It is supposed to be part of the first chapter. I'm going to put it there because we have already now used the time value for man as a concept. Like Benjamin told you, we are not having class tomorrow, but that assignment should be worked on because it is now part of the assignment, meaning I'll just give you any other investment project or something of the sort, or I can even overhaul the course outline in the mode of assessment. I can choose to bring in more and more engagements than simply producing an investment plan. That one I look at what is feasible from my side. At least we still have time. So with that, I think we bring the class to the end today until we meet. Have the best of Matters Day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you.
You too.